This is the entire story of Catnap, going from before he was even a living, breathing toy, all the way to his eventual death by the prototype. And by the end of this video, you'll know everything there is to learn about Catnap, what he's done, why he existed, and how he even possesses the traits he has now. So, with that being said, let's look at the entire story of Catnap. Declining profits, failed experiments, and disobedient employees. This was the current state of Playtime Co. Harley Sawyer, an executive at Playtime Co., proposed a solution to the declining profits, and everything else would soon fall into place with the right amount of time, effort, and planning. The Bigger Bodies initiative was set in motion soon after its suggestion, and it led to the creation of the Game Station. This was built so Playtime Co. could test the orphans that they had living at their on-site orphanage, having them complete a series of mini-games to test the child's reaction time, cognitive skills, physical abilities, and everything in between. If the orphans yielded good results, then they would be sent back to Playcare to inhale the red smoke while they slept to be soon turned into their designated toy. But there was one side effect regarding the experiment. After an orphan was turned into a toy, they would have no recollection of their identity before they were turned into a toy. But they would be able to remember certain locations that looked familiar or that they felt comfortable in. And we'll soon learn that some orphans would remember some other things. In the span of a year, the company got pretty good at the experiments, to the point where they had created multiple experiments that were assigned different and very important roles in the factory. Huggy Wuggy was the factory security, Mommy Longlegs was in charge of the game station, but the company still needed a toy to be in charge of Home Sweet Home, the resting place for all orphan children. And they needed a toy that made sure not only the children fall asleep, but make sure that they can effectively inhale the red smoke for easy experimentation. And so the list began to be made for the potential orphans that could take the role of the bigger body version of Catnap, the future overseer of Home Sweet Home. These kids all had a near perfect score in the game station, making them all great choices. All of them, including a kid named Theodore Granbell. Theodore was around 7 years old at the time of this, a young boy with light skin, curly brown hair, and dark brown eyes. And after some testing, he was sent to his room inside of Home Sweet Home, getting ready to go to sleep. But just then, a strange voice caught his attention, and it sounded like it was coming from under his bed. We know that this is the prototype, who seemingly escaped containment and decided to hide out in Theodore's room. But he reassures Theodore, letting him know that he's his friend, and the adults of Playtime Co. are not. So, as the days went by and their friendship got stronger, the prototype began to encourage Theodore to sabotage Playtime Co. in their experiments. However, he did get caught a couple of times, causing him to become very well known amongst the staff. And every time he was confronted of this, he always said that it was his friend's idea, to which the staff said that his friend didn't exist and he needs to stop. But one day, the prototype instructed Theodore to steal a grab pack with a green grab pack hand to open one of the maintenance doors, likely so the orphans could escape. However, due to Theodore's lack of understanding on how to work the device, he attempted to open the door and it resulted in him being electrocuted and severely injured, causing Theodore to receive immediate medical attention. Two staff members, Thomas Clark and Joel Sinclair, later heard about this incident, saying that the door required 2 people to be opened correctly, and during their talk, Thomas could have sworn that he saw Theodore's imaginary friend at some point. And after nursing Theodore back to health and sending him to Home Sweet Home, the sabotaging seemed to continue despite his injuries. The prototype was relentless in using Theodore to help all of the orphans escape Playcare and avoid the horrible experiments being done on them. But unfortunately, all of this mischief resulted in Theodore being moved to the top of the list of orphans who would potentially be experimented on. And so the experiment was conducted and it was a success, resulting in the creation of Experiment 1188, otherwise known as Catnap. Catnap was created with the job of putting the children of Home Sweet Home to sleep, not only to prevent them from escaping Playcare, but to also make future experiments a lot easier to conduct. But Catnap wasn't the only toy in his line. Playtime Co. had a group of toys known as the Smiling Critters, and eventually they managed to get their own cartoon show. The popularity was so good, in fact, that the characters became Playcare's main mascots and were loved by the orphans. And this was likely due to not only their diverse personalities, but the flower-like scents that they gave off as well. Bubba Bubba Fit was lemongrass, Kickin' Chicken was ylang ylang, Hoppy Hopscotch was peppermint, Picky Piggy was citrus, Bobby Bear Hug was rose, Crafty Corn was jasmine, their leader Dog Day was vanilla, and Catnap was lavender. However, the company had still been conducting experiments during this time, which led to the red smoke, otherwise known as poppy gas, to somehow get mixed with the lavender scent for Catnap. And this resulted in any kid having a Catnap toy beside them to have strange and violent nightmares. With Playtime Co.'s reputation now on the line, they decide to recall Catnap from the Smiling Critters altogether, removing any sign of him ever existing from all marketing material. They decided to keep the bigger body version of Catnap around, however, and the memories of Theodore still lingered within Catnap, specifically the memories of the prototype. And while assessed by one of the staff, Catnap says the prototype will save us, likely referring to the rest of the orphans.
Hey, Theo. How you doing, bud? Normally I'd have Dr. Sawyer do this, but he's, out, let's say. So you got me until they find his replacement. First off, congrats. This is officially your 4th year in your new body, and you've made some real progress, pal. I was told that when you and the other Smiling Critters, Dog Day, Picky Piggy, yada yada yada, were added into Playcare, that you weren't really getting along too well with the kids like everybody else was. But look at you now. The kids love you. And that red smoke, I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? Is his, voice thingy still broken?
This devotion to the prototype never wavered either, as an event known as the Hour of Joy occurred, where all of the toys collectively rebelled against all of the workers in Playtime Co. And when I say all, I mean all of them. This was all orchestrated by the prototype, and it was only natural that Catnap followed what he considered to be his god. So Catnap, along with Mommy Longlegs, Huggy Wuggy, Boxy Boo, the mini Smiling Critters, Miss Delights, and her sisters killed every single person in that factory. And once it was all over, the entire factory was now left with nothing but the bodies of the workers. And these bodies were then dragged down to the deepest and darkest parts of the factory, where they would never be found. Now, like us humans, the experiments needed food to keep themselves alive. So the toys took this opportunity to eat all of the bodies and live off of the scraps of flesh in the factory soon after. A couple years after this, it's said that Dog Day wasn't exactly on board with the prototype's plans and thoughts regarding the factory, and he knew that for the other toys, it wouldn't exactly end well for them. So he started to try and convince the toys that it's not safe here and that they need to go as far away as possible from this place. Catnap and the prototype eventually caught wind of this, and instead of just killing Dog Day, they decided to cut off his legs and leave him in the jail cell of the playhouse to suffer. The year is now 2005, and we, the player, have come back to the factory as we used to work here. But judging by the fact that we're still alive, it's likely that we weren't present during the Hour of Joy. We're instructed to find the Poppy flower, and once we do, we open Poppy's case after defeating the infamous Huggy Wuggy and start to get familiar with Poppy. Later on, we meet Mommy Longlegs, who we managed to defeat as well via a grinder. But after she's killed, the prototype's hand can be seen dragging what's left of Mommy Longlegs away. And during the events of chapter 3, Catnap becomes the next toy taken by the prototype and ended up being killed by the same thing he devoted his life to. If you guys want me to do origin stories for other characters, be sure to let me know down in the comments. But as always, thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.